All right, good morning, everyone. So great to see everyone in 3D and in person. This is awesome. My name is Rayette Toes Abdullah. I'm an AWS Solutions Architect supporting NOAA, the National Oceanic and Atmospheric Administration. Thank you for being here again today. So NOAA National Environmental Satellite Data and Information Service, or NESDIS, we love our acronyms, right, has the mission to provide secure and timely access to global environmental data, right? And this is to promote and protect the nation's security, environment, economy, and quality of life. These are great things they're doing there, right? And using the technology to do so. They've made great strides in their cloud journey. And today, you'll hear from Catherine Shantz and Chris O'Connors from the NOAA Office of Satellite Ground Services. They will discuss how the NESDIS Common Cloud Framework is used and built on AWS to deliver the data value chain from ingest to data processing, to storage, and to dissemination, right? I want you to also not only just listen out for the technology here, I want you to listen to their story on how they made changes in the culture with the people and with the process, right? So another important piece to take away from this session. So without further ado, because this is a customer lightning round, I'm going to bring to the stage Catherine Shantz here to get us started.
Thank you, Rayette. Thank you so much, Rayette. Good morning. Wow, in person, it's been a while. Glad to be here with you to talk about what we've been doing at NOAA and in specific NESDIS. Today, our goal is really to talk about the value of our data. So at NOAA, data drives decision, and I know data is the lifeblood of all of the federal agencies, right? The IRS sure uses data, right? FAA, but at NOAA and our mission, it's about saving lives. It's about saving property. It's about coastal resilience. It's about managing in a time of change. And it's that observing system at the global level, from ships to buoys, to radar, to weather satellites, that enables those decisions to be made by humans that we interface with on a daily basis. This really hit home for me. Really, gosh, it was about a couple weeks back, March 31st. I don't know if you live locally, but I'm pretty close by. I have an 8-month-old. He's adorable, doesn't sleep a lot. So I just put him down, I was going to bed early, and not a second later, it felt like my phone just started blaring. And I don't know if you all have experienced that. It was a tornado warning. We had a tornado, actually the rotation spinning above my house. And without thinking, grabbed the baby, my husband too, I guess, and we went and sheltered in the basement. That was so visceral. That was so visceral. That data that had to go to a Weather Service forecast office to put out a tornado warning so that my life would be preserved, it's fundamental. And thankfully, look, nothing happened. The tornado did touch down, though, about 2 miles away. We were safe, everything was fine. But it's how we interact with that data. And it's that mission and the use of that data that really motivates us. AWS is then the fundamental underpinning that can help support that. That was an example of data being used at the National Weather Service for forecasts and warnings. So I want to talk to you today a little bit about what we're doing on the National Environmental Satellite and Data Information Service, or NESDIS. We still have that same motivation because we're just upstream. We are the data provider and archive for NOAA's data from the satellites that is used for decisions. It's used for numerical weather prediction across the globe. But the timeliness, the accuracy of that data, it's paramount. It helps us make those decisions over time. You can see here, we have some great examples Global sea ice forecasting, that's critical to commerce. Harmful algal blooms, you might also know those as red tide events. They can be very damaging to health. Those satellite-derived products are absolutely key to not only commerce, livelihoods, but also resilience as an entire agency. So it's that mission, and AWS is the pathway for us to get there. At Nesdis, we've really leaned into a cloud-forward approach. And that started with an initial analysis back in about 2018 that said, by the mid-2020s, the way we've been doing business, it's unsustainable. Budgets will run out. We have huge new observing systems that are providing a ton more data. We can't continue on that pathway. So for us, an agile, flexible, scalable, all those buzzwords, interpretation, a cloud-based approach was the pathway for us. But we looked at it and said, okay, we have a separate set of over 300 systems that makes up our, what we call satellite ground enterprise. That includes the archive. Why not? Why not do it a little differently? You can lift those systems into the cloud, shift them, optimize them, all those things. But does that get us efficiency? Is that really what we need to improve, to add more value, to deliver more mission to our stakeholders, to support enhanced forecasts, to save more lives? And so we said, why not? Why not the commercial cloud? Why not AWS? Why not an enterprise solution based on industry best practices? And we actually took that question, formulated barriers of why we can't. Maybe we don't trust it. Maybe there's technological reasons we can't. But we addressed those barriers in a pilot project. And that initial pilot project is now an operational enterprise system that's running on AWS. We brought it in. We're iteratively developing and deploying services. And I'm pleased to bring up my division chief, Chris O'Connors, to tell you a lot more about our architecture. Chris.
Thank you, Catherine, and good morning, everyone. Thank you for letting me talk to you a little bit about the Nesdis Common Cloud Framework. So my cloud journey started a couple years ago. I was doing some piloting within the organization, and leadership like Catherine came to me and said, Chris, we'd really like you to take these initial pilots that we've been working on, the secure ingest system that we've been piloting and some of the other applications. We'd like you to build an enterprise cloud capability working with AWS. I said, wow, that's pretty exciting. I guess I could do that. And also, Chris, we'd like you to change the culture of the organization by implementing Scale Agile framework and working within Agile teams and break away from waterfall. I said, wow, that sounds really exciting. I don't know how I'm going to do that, but I will definitely give that a try. So we started with a group of early adopters, and we got together and we started looking at what does our data management systems do? What are the key components and services of our data management system? Traditionally, in Nesdis, we build and we fly satellites, and each satellite comes with a unique ground system. And over time, we collect ground systems, right? And then each one has to have a certain set of capabilities, and you need certain people to run those systems, and over time, it becomes very complex. Right? And as Catherine said, as we looked into the future, we see so many more satellite systems coming at us, not just from NOAA, but from our commercial partners, from our international partners. It just wasn't going to work. So we needed something much more scalable and flexible. So we came up with these sets of services to define what our enterprise architecture should look like. So we have an ingest capability. We need to have a compute function, a kind of a HPC model, where we can bring data in with the scientific algorithms and turn raw satellite data into useful information for people. Well, then we need to disseminate that useful information, so we need to have a dissemination capability. And then underlying all that, we need the enabling capabilities like a storage infrastructure, CI/CD, ways to manage the system. So this is the vision we came up with. So starting about November of 2020, we started to build out this capability, and working with several Agile teams, working to deliver an initial infrastructure. It took us 6 months to stand up 3 accounts, a dev, a UAT, and a production environment with what you see here, the consolidated ingest service that uses the various AWS unique capabilities, our compute service, underlying storage, catalog, and a simple dissemination. 6 months, we were able to stand up this capability, have it up and running, and delivering operational products to our customers. So a lot of power and capability in using the cloud, and also using Scale Agile in terms of getting work done. And it's been a real challenge and real interesting roadmap, working with the Agile teams, implementing the program increments every 3 months, working within the sprints across the teams, and delivering value. It's been quite eye-opening from a very traditional waterfall organization to see such a unique culture be able to not only be developed, but actually thrive in that environment. So we'll continue to develop this capability over the last year. We're adding functionality in terms of a metadata catalog. We're looking at having enterprise storage. We're also, in the previous diagram, looking at having a multi-boundary system. Today, we have a small enclave within an on-prem operational system, but we're moving to a dedicated cloud boundary starting in September, if we get our authority to operate. And then we'll have a first dedicated NOAA cloud boundary that's going to be providing operational services. We'll also have a separate boundary that will be a moderate boundary that'll provide all our unique research and development and science engagement. And so we're doing all this in AWS Commercial Cloud. We chose AWS Commercial Cloud because it really gives us access to a lot more services that are FedRAMP compliant. And really, when you start moving into the cloud, where you really find efficiencies in terms of cost and optimization, is taking advantage of those AWS services. Because when we first sat out and looked at that vision, we had kind of high, ideals that we were going to have a cloud agnostic capability. We would not get vendor locked into any particular thing. But once you start diving into actually working with the cloud, you find out it's really through the unique services, those AWS capabilities, that you really find significant cost savings and optimization. So that's what we've done. And if you look at this architecture, we're using significant amounts of AWS services and also third-party capabilities too, to augment them for cost optimization and other things, cost tracking. So just a couple of last thoughts. I threw a lot of information out. Some of the key things that we had to that we ran into when we were working with our cloud journey. First, that we started with a FedRAMP moderate environment in the commercial cloud. We looked at GovCloud. We wanted the flexibilities of the FedRAMP services. We still can have high environments, right? We're still tailoring our moderate environment, operational environment with high controls, so we can still have that security, stability for our operational system. But we're also taking advantage of the moderate commercial cloud to allow ourselves to have our scientists working there and bringing collaborators in to work on new science algorithms and capabilities. So that was a choice we made. The other choice I talked about is the AWS native services. Not limiting ourselves to agnostic and really trying to dive in and take full advantage of the funding, the spending plans, the reservations, the other capabilities that you can really take advantage of as AWS native services. And then the last big problem that we need to tackle is going to be our egress, right? And that's something we're working on now. How do we get the users the data? So that's going to be the next big challenge for us as we build out our dissemination user access portals. So right now we'll probably have very traditional subscription services where we're delivering data to users like we've been doing for many, many years. But we also want to look at ways of bringing users to the data, doing more bucket-to-bucket transfers, let users have their own tools up in the cloud, be able to access our data directly from the cloud, and then do the type of work they want to do really close by. And then I think part of that too will be getting our data in a way that it's analysis ready, so that we can let them use that data to develop and use things like AI or ML to do some interesting science and other things. We're also going to look at the AI and ML from a more operational perspective, right? How do we tune our operations? How do we tune our services and capabilities? So that's really, I think, the focus over the next year is going to be looking at those aspects. So hopefully maybe next year I can come back and talk a little bit about those things. So I'd like to pass it back to Catherine. She's going to bring us home with some final challenges. And thank you for letting me talk about the NCCF.
We've got a vision. We've got a technical solution. It's pretty darn good. We think so anyway. AWS helped us with it. But our challenges for adoption aren't just at the technology. If there was a problem we could work with Rayette and solution the answer, that wasn't the challenge. We could get there. How do we actually bring the teams that underpin those 300 systems into a common environment? The people in the process. That's where we had to focus. So we have a myriad of challenges, right? We've talked with people, lots of discussions, and I just want to highlight kind of our challenges, and then I want to reframe them as some opportunities. The first is, if they've never seen it, it's new technology. It's totally new. How does it work? Are you sure? What is really fault tolerant? Will it go down? I don't know. I don't touch that system. I'm buying cloud services. Is it really not going to fail? You have to build the trust in the tech. And then we took out of these individual systems with their own individual processes and said, now do enterprise. Well, what's my role? What are my responsibilities? What do I own? How do I make decisions and ensure that my workflow, my work stream, continues? And then you heard Chris mention Agile and the Scaled Agile framework, but a DevSecOps culture. We are a traditional waterfall system engineering organization by trade. When you launch a satellite, you can't touch it. It has to be good to go for 30 years. Well, we applied that same methodology to ground systems. You heard about Chris say we delivered all of those. Well, bringing in a different approach where we bring the application developers, the system operators, the architects onto one team, that's a huge cultural change. And then people would always say, okay, I trust it. I've been doing these processes. But what does that mean for my job? What do I do? What changes on a daily basis for me? These are all things we've heard from all different levels of the organization. It's not just the people who are doing the technical development, it's the management. What do I do about this? Because these are the things that are going to be barriers, roadblocks to cloud adoption. So I think they're all opportunities. And look, I'm a bit of an optimist looking to that future vision. But I think this is the key. Trust and building that trust is foundational to a cloud adoption journey. By bringing people in, by piloting, by adding more people to Chris's team, not really his team, but scaling the amount of teams we have, building in a solutioning level, that's absolutely key. And providing transparency. If we're not there yet, we're still developing services. Our operational framework is still deploying one. In fact, Archive as an operational service is coming out this year. Transparency on what we have and what we don't have, and clear communication. And that's always a challenge, but it's communicating directly, point to point at all levels. It's adopting that Agile framework and leveraging processes, so we're not just winging it. I heard some people say, oh, you're running with scissors. No, we have an approach. It's the Scaled Agile framework, and we tailor it to meet our needs and our customer service focus. The challenge also is that enterprise thinking. How do we bring people to that? And really actually putting them on a team. Some offices call it matrixing. Some offices call it, I don't know, a different way for teaming. But actually just bringing people together, having them work hand in hand, contractors, feds, across multiple offices, that's key. We're no longer creating something, tossing the ball, and just creating that project and the ball bounces down the field. We're actually bringing people to the enterprise. And it's also, as a management team, giving them top cover so that they own the decisions at their levels. That team knows more about that workflow than I ever will. Why shouldn't they be the ones to tell me what the right approach is? Now, I can, of course, say, no, we really need to meet the different schedule, but it's empowering the team and creating that innovative culture where risk-taking isn't penalized. And that's a different thing for the federal government. You want to answer the mail, get the schedule in. How does Agile work? What is a backlog? How do I create an integrated master schedule against that? You don't. But you still have very clear guidelines, schedules, approaches that you bring people in. And the last thing is that mission orientation. At NOAA, I'm not alone in believing ardently in the value of our data, in saving lives and property, and coastal resilience. And it's finding that motivation across all of our staff that enables us to bring this in. When people see more value comes out, lower latency, better potential forecasts, more lives saved, that's a huge motivator. So it's adopting that methodology for your teams. So just bringing this back home. Look, I come out here, I'm telling you, we're not done. This is a journey. We're on it. Some teams are happily using our cloud environment. Some are still not a big fan. We're going to be working this through, and it's bringing that in, scaling them, working with them, adopting processes, aligning, bringing in solutioning level approaches. That's where we're focusing. It's not the technology. AWS can certainly help with that, and they have. We've gotten a lot of really fabulous solutions that have really drove low latency and high availability approaches. But it's the people. The people are the limitation or the advantage for your solution. In NOAA, it's empowering them. It's building the processes and the security and the trust within those using Scaled Agile Framework. And then it's AWS, that fault-tolerant approach to cloud and architecting it that way. And with that, thank you very much. Looking forward to some questions. Come on.
While we're working on getting the questions through as well, as Catherine stated as well, training is a very important part of their success and what they've been able to accomplish so far, right? Not just the Agile training, but also AWS training. So, scan one or two of the QR codes here on the screen to get started with your cloud skills and helping your team grow in that area as well. With that, we're going to open it up for questioning. And while we're doing that, I'm going to also put the survey up, take the survey for the course as well, for the session as well.
Hey, Catherine, great job. Catherine, Chris, and Ryan, great job on the presentation and awesome. Congratulations on the great success you guys have had. As NOAA is on this cusp of, using cloud and particularly AWS as an operational rhythm, what do you look at from a future perspective? Where do you think this is, where you guys are headed? And most importantly, how do you think the cloud and the approaches that you're taking will change the mentality and the culture and so on and so forth?
Yeah, that future vision. I think there's a couple pieces there. It's focusing and sticking to a vision, bringing people into the vision, help them co-develop it, and then think, well, how? How can I make that? And that ownership of the how we can enable that vision is really key. We're leveraging our AWS services and tweaking them as needed to meet those high availability, low latency transfer needs, as well as our public-facing open data approach. We provide all of our data for free to anyone who wants it. There's an egress challenge. So how we architect that, we're really leaning to the future and working hand in hand with AWS. Chris, any other thoughts?
Yeah, no, I just think there's still some architectural challenges. The egress is one. Another is we're integrating all of our archive capabilities into the Nessus Common Cloud Framework. So you're talking, 20 or more petabytes of data and different holdings that we have to bring together, along with all the rich metadata extraction and access to all that data, right? Because having all that archive data is useless if nobody has access to it. So, and that ties back to having a robust dissemination capability and be able to bring users to that data somehow in the cloud and try to manage our egress costs.
Hi, Jeff Massiello, ActionNet. How did you get or secure manager buy-in for this? Because you have to have the upper level echelon agreeing to really get the lower level people to join in to give that top cover. And what was your journey from deciding let's go straight to AWS? Because everybody wants to use everything and be everything, but like you said, that just limits a lot of what you can do.
So I think it's been leadership. Our leadership recognized that the amount of data coming at us is too much. There's too many missions. If we keep doing what we're doing traditionally, we're going to struggle to be scalable and flexible. So to me, we had some really innovative people thinking and saying, hey, we need to do this. And right now, we're really doing it in a semi-isolated fashion, right? We're working with the data management aspects and moving into a DevOps culture, right? But there's still waterfall going on. We're still building satellites in other parts of the organization. So it's not everywhere. We're learning through data management, and hopefully then we can grow it to other parts of our organization. And there was a second part to your question.
It's about how you got moved away from the idea of we have to use every single cloud
Yeah.
asset that won really well.
To be fair, though, NOAA in general, we have got pilots across all the CSPs, right? So we're working with them across. We're learning things about the other CSPs as well. But it just worked out that AWS had the right set of services, and we had the right experiences to partner with them for the data management piece anyway. Yeah.
Hi, Kevin Fiftel, Intel Corporation. If you really look at your architecture, the complexity seems to be at the ingest point. How exactly are you doing that?
So How are we doing that? So right now we have a simple, what we call a dirty bucket, an S3 bucket on the outside where data comes in, and then we have a secure ingest function which does a number of security checks. There's about 7 different checks, including steganography, and we analyze the data before we bring it in. Then we bring the data into our storage facility, into a clean bucket, and that's where now that data becomes available to be picked up. And we use the EKS and orchestration to move it to the containers to generate the products. So hopefully that's what you were asking. If not, we can talk on the side.
Yeah. Any other questions?
Hey, Scott Westnapper from Pyramid. Are you guys using Amazon's ground station service?
So we are investigating the ground station as a service capability. We've actually completed a CRADA with Microsoft Azure's ground service. We are in talks with Amazon, and I think Google is in its nascent stages as well. We are looking, to the point asked earlier, to leverage all of the CSPs in our enterprise, and I don't mean at the Nesdis level, but the NOAA level, our architecture, to leverage all of the cloud vendors. That's a challenge because it's not as easy to make all of those pieces work in sync. But there are capabilities across NOAA that leverage a lot of the different opportunities there. And I am really interested in the next steps for ground station as a service. I do think we originally started the data ingest and flow through the processing and the storage, but that could offer us a lot of commercial capabilities, and Nesdis is very strongly looking into that capability now and as an operational capability, hopefully in the future.
Hi, Casey Alexander, Office of Naval Intelligence. Who did you have architect and build your cloud and applications? Was that NOAA government employees, Amazon, a third-party contractor?
Yes, the answer is yes.
Yes.
I mean that, that was a flippant answer, but I do mean it intentionally. I think our traditional approach to acquiring ground systems, to acquiring approaches, was just set of requirements, hand it over to a brilliant contractor, and they'll deliver you a beautiful system. But we have different contractors, and they all come up with beautiful different approaches. So this way, we actually asked our federal leads, and I got the opportunity to lead the initial cloud development work, pairing hand in hand with some brilliant architects. They're actually in the audience today, and I'm happy to introduce you to them, on what that could be. So we architected, our software is provided by scientists, but how we use the services to orchestrate those and leverage that, it was co-developed and intentionally owned with the federal civilian people like Chris and the contractors who underpin it. And we use a suite of contractors, it's not just one, to help us build this and interface together. So it's a different ownership model, and I think it's been really successful in helping us architect. But it's bringing in people from that industry world who saw it, who've done these things to bring those industry best practices. That's novel for me. Bringing them in, getting them to help us shape that vision and move forward.
And I'll add one tidbit to that. Everyone has an account team that will sit and partner with you along the journey as well, right? I say leverage that account team as much as possible. Myself as an SA, you're going to have on your account team as well as an account manager to help you with any partners you want to help you with your project as well, or your migration, right? So leverage those resources. We have a whole ecosystem here to help you along the way, including the partners like we've partnered up here with Nesdis and the ground services team here.
Right. My name is Sudhindra Rao from JFrog. Can you please talk about the DevSecOps practices, especially around CI and CD? I'm just wondering whether if you're using any binary lifecycle management, vendors such as JFrog, Artifactory. Thank you.
Yeah, so for right now we don't have a CI/CD in place. We're working towards it. So it's actually slowing us a little bit because we have to do a lot of things manually. And so we have a little bit more emphasis on the teaming and the way that works. But all our teams, as Catherine was mentioning, are fully integrated, right? So we have the science teams working directly with the operators, working with the contract architects and solutioning folks. And so they're working together within the Scale Agile framework, so within the 3-month PIs and the sprints to deliver, right? So they work together to create the user stories, to build the backlog, and then deliver the functionality. But we haven't yet delivered CI/CD, so I can't really talk too much about where we're going. But we are looking at it, we're demoing it this summer. So I'm hoping we'll be able to add that layer to our architecture here real soon.
And just to tag into that, it's not that the CI/CD piece is too challenging. Our algorithms, our software applications that run, have a lot of interdependencies in processing as well as very low latency requirements. And that drives a very specific orchestration solution. So if it were just bring it up, process, let it go, that's fundamentally different. But the amount of regression testing necessary to ensure consistency when you deploy that is the piece that we're actually working through, and that takes a little bit more complexity relative to our CI/CD pipeline. But next year, we'll come back and tell you all about it.
Right, I think there were a few more questions, but unfortunately, we are past time. Thank you so much to Rayette, Catherine, and Chris. What a great session. Really appreciate it.
Thank you.